What is it, Bubby? This is our truck? Is that our truck? Ladies and gentlemen, after a year of non-operable status, the Pajero finally comes home. What's up, everybody? My name is Nick Lanza, and if you're new to the channel, this is an old mainstay of the show, and we do builds, reviews, and have candid conversations about cars. So if any of that interests you, please consider subbing. Leave us a comment about some of your favorite topics to discuss. Let's get into today's video. Now, this Pajero is a 1990 Mark I. This was the last year that they produced this model, and this truck is entirely stock. There haven't been any engine swaps, transmission changeouts, diff changes, any of that. Everything in this truck is how I got it from Japan. Now, we've done a lot of repair work to this truck over the last 2 years that we've owned it, but unfortunately last year this guy faced a very serious catastrophic failure. We unfortunately, in the process of trying to install our amplifier, something happened and we had an arc, and it fried a lot of the hardware and electronics in this thing. But that's when we also found out that the wiring harness that was in it natively was extremely corroded all the way through back to the ECU. So it meant that it was a bigger job than we could handle, because in case you couldn't remember at the time, I was almost homeless. Life circumstances happened and I did not want to let this thing go because I was planning to live out of this thing if I needed to. But alas, I ended up taking it to the dealership. The dealership did nothing with it for months. And then I took this over to Chaos Fabrication over in Winchester, where they have been tirelessly working on creating an entirely unique, specific to this truck only wiring harness. And now, to demonstrate to you, check it out, y'all. Key in the ignition. Don't even have to pump the gas. And just like that, it's alive. Oh, look at that, Merlin's already jumping in the truck. He remembers this thing very well. Now, I love this truck. This thing has been one of the coolest rides I've ever owned. And even though now it's got a finicky startup because it's got some old gas in it, this thing's a champ, man. And the fact that we finally got it back makes me beyond happy, because now a member of the family's come home. And of course, we got to go over what was replaced and what was left alone. Quite simply, Chaos did a lot of the tuning work for this thing, because not only was it a wiring harness, it was an ECU, it was an igniter chip, it was getting some of our parts and components treated to make them pretty much brand new. It was a lot of work. This does not include the hours of research that I myself put in, because I probably put in maybe 50 to 60 hours just diving headfirst into this truck, trying to figure out what in the world went wrong and how to fix it. And Brad, if you watch this, no, I don't blame you for this. If anything, you uncovered a symptom of something that was going wrong already. But at the very least, now I'm back in this truck. I love it. I actually just went to the coffee shop with the dog, because why not? It's only a couple miles away and he loves to drive. And it's funny because I have a lot of people just driving by looking at me like, why is he filming himself? But just feeling this thing on the road, it reminds me of everything that Mitsubishi used to be really good at. And I know in our last video, we pretty much told them, hey, show off what your trucks can do in your advertising, because if they actually can do some pretty hefty stuff, then people might be more interested. And getting back in this reminds me of, yeah, if Mitsubishi did that, I think they will sell like hotcakes. After all, this thing is a beast, and everybody that's ridden in this, driven this, etc., they're like, this is the coolest truck we've ever been in. Not just because it's right-hand drive, but because it came just loaded with everything you'd ever ask for. It comes loaded with locking wheel hubs, a Dana 60 rear and a Dana 44 front from factory. It's insane amounts of headroom, I have a roof rack from a Land Cruiser on it, but I could put one that's even bigger that could handle a lot more weight. So quite literally, if I wanted to, I could turn this into an off-road camping excursion truck. One of my personal hopes and dreams for season 12 is that we'd be able to take this guy on a cross-country excursion from here all the way to the West Coast and back. Of course, we got to time it right because there are some people that we want to see along the way, such as Gabby. She's an old friend of ours now, who's just killing it with BFG and all that out there in Utah, and we miss her dearly. So we've got some big plans for this truck. And over the course of the next year, in addition to the Mighty Max getting spruced up and built up for the purposes of business, this is going to be the pleasure craft. As is, there's a lot about it's already really good. Probably going to get it reupholstered just because the driver's seat, it's a bit torn. Passenger seat's starting to show a little wear. The back seat, for whatever reason, smells like butter. And I know it's my own fault. There's a story to that for another episode. And there's a few odds and ends in the suspension that I want to get dialed in, namely some front steering issues, because as it sits, it is a completely like Link style steering box. It's not a steering rack, and some of those bushings are a little worn out. You can feel it from time to time. And of course, there will be a tire review. It is over a year late, but these beautiful Toyo Open Countries that are on this truck have been waiting for us to finally put a review out. And now that more time has elapsed and I now live in the country, what better place to test it out than out here, right? But with that said, I hope you guys can celebrate right alongside of us as the prodigal son has come home. The Pajero runs, it drives, and I'm taking it to work today. What do you want to see done to this thing? Because I'm curious what people think we can do with this. Obviously, people are going to say lift kits and stuff, but I want to see what else we can do other than just a lift kit, because this already has 2 feet of travel in the back and 1.5 feet in the front. But all that said, I got to go to work. You guys are awesome. If you haven't subbed already, please consider doing so. God bless y'all, and we'll see you next time. Peace. There's that real hard shift in the gear, and we're out of here.